Yeah, I mean, for VIT for us, I mean, like obviously there's like things that we look at every day or every week, like video views and engagement and likes. But VIT is like the North Star of like, okay, like when you take a big step back, like where are we within our competitive set and how are we really resonating? So I think it's an amazing metric. And for us, that was, it could be, we actually said, could we like get into the top 30 or top 20? Wouldn't that be amazing? So we jumped up to one of the top brands. That was really exciting for us. And it's something that will be, you know, our big picture monitor that we will continue to look at every month. And I think it's great. You know, I think there's, it is like the version of EMV. I think for me, I was a little like, okay, is it EMV? Is it VIT? Is it a different version? I don't know if you could explain that, because I think a lot of people on our team had that question when we first started to look at this metric as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's a great question, and I'll just so I want to just explain what VIT is and address that question of EMV, because I think a lot of people, you know, in growing their influencer marketing programs care about, is this working? Is there an ROI? And, you know, whether you're trying to establish your program and have something in place to answer that question, or whether you're trying to grow your program and you're going to start throwing a lot more resources at it, you need a way to measure it. And I think that, you know, there's the adage, why do we measure? It's to get better. And the challenge that we saw with EMV is really quite simply that it's twofold. But the first problem is that when you put the dollar value on a metric, it leads to confusion, and it leads to then potentially the wrong behaviors, which is the opposite of why we're trying to measure. So the problem with the dollar value is it very easily gets, if you say, okay, you know, we did a campaign, we paid $10,000 and we got $1 million of EMV, that very quickly becomes seen as like we've created $1 million worth of value. But that's not true. Where is that $1 million? Is it in your sales? No. Is it in the value of your company? No. The metric doesn't actually correlate to ROI. And so if you're using it as a metric to benchmark where you're at and understand your performance today, learn what you need to do, make some changes, and see how that number moved, fine, then you're using it correctly. But I think that leads to another problem with EMV, is not being able to understand what goes into the metric. And then if you don't know what the levers are, and you don't have visibility into those levers for yourself and for your competitors, then how do you know what to actually do to move the needle? And so with VIT, we very specifically separate out those values too. So you have you have an aggregate score of visibility, of impressions, of eyeballs on your influencer generated content. You have a measure of impact, which is related to engagement. And then you have this notion of trust. Are you photo tagged behind 1,000 brands, or are you the feature of this influencer generated content? And so when you can see the score together, the aggregate, then you're able to do this sort of benchmarking and feed into other measurement models and use that as this like high level North Star, as you said. But then your teams can break that down and say, okay, well, what do we need to do to move the needle, to get better? And you can go into those different components and understand, like, okay, well, maybe we're lacking on engagement. Maybe our impressions are good, but the content's not engaging. And I think what's really exciting is what you've done post this Ulta campaign, and how you used the insights you were able to take from VIT to make decisions about where to invest next. And so maybe we could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think how we leveraged the VIT tool was to say, okay, like we are here and we want to be here by some of these other top brands within other categories too. You know, we looked at like the top TikTok brands and makeup, and in addition to skincare. And then what was fascinating about the analysis was that, you know, the VIT is really a balance of different types of influencers. And where we saw a big gap for us is that we did not have like anyone in the VIP category, and the VIP influencers are driving a significant amount of VIT for other brands. So, you know, it was a little daunting because those influencers are, you know, more expensive. You know, they're a bigger gamble to take, and you really have to make sure that you find the right people to do that. But this analysis gave us that impetus to say, okay, we know we need to do this. We know we need to invest in VIP. That's the thing that's going to move the needle.